I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I need to write this down before I lose my nerve. Last night, I woke up to the sound of something moving in my house. I live alone. No pets, no roommates, nothing. At first, I thought it was just the heater creaking, but then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing up the curved hallway. That's the thing, my house is circular. Not like a normal circle, but a spiral that winds inward. The realtor called it unique architecture. I've lived here 6 months and I still get turned around sometimes. Every hallway curves, every staircase bends, like the whole place is coiling tighter around me. The footsteps were keeping perfect rhythm with my heartbeat. I got out of bed, phone in hand, and opened the door just in time to catch a shadow slip around the bend in the hall. It didn't make sense. There was nowhere it could go except further inward, toward the center of the house, my living room. But when I followed, I found the stairs leading down had vanished. I swear on my life, they were just gone. Only smooth floor, as if there had never been stairs there at all. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification from my AI home assistant app, unknown device connected, dog_001. I don't own a dog. And right then, out of the corner of the living room where the stairs should have been, I heard low, guttural breathing. I froze. The sound wasn't just breathing, it was wet, ragged, like something struggling to stay alive. My brain scrambled to rationalize it. Maybe a raccoon got in, maybe some kind of leak making noises. But every instinct screamed animal. I raised my phone flashlight and pointed it at the corner. The beam cut across the room, and for a split second, I saw it. A dog, or what looked like one, sitting perfectly still in the shadow. But it wasn't right. Its fur absorbed the light completely, like I was shining into a black hole. No reflection in its eyes, no detail, just a void shaped like a dog. Then it stood up. It was taller than me, its head brushing the ceiling as it stretched. My chest seized up, like my body knew something my brain didn't. This isn't supposed to exist. I stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Dog_001 is moving. The void dog stepped forward, and every step it took erased a little more of the floor, like it was eating the house itself. The spiral hallway behind me began to bend sharper, tighter, pulling me in. And then, out of nowhere, a woman's voice whispered in my ear, close enough that I felt the heat of her breath. "Don't run. You'll only make it worse." I spun around, but no one was there. Just the curving hallway stretching behind me, narrowing like it was closing in. My whole body shook. The voice had been right there. I could still feel the chill on my skin. The void dog let out this low vibration. It wasn't a growl, not exactly, but it rattled the air like bass from a subwoofer. My phone flickered, the screen glitching. For a second, the AI app opened itself, unprompted. "Hello, nurse," appeared in block letters across the screen. Then my flashlight cut out. Pitch black. I pressed the power button over and over, panic rising, until finally the screen lit again. But instead of the living room, my camera was showing the side of a rural road. Dark trees, asphalt stretching into nothing, and a lone figure standing under a flickering streetlight. A woman in a nurse's uniform. Pale. Still. I lowered the phone. I was inside my house. But when I lifted it again, the nurse was closer to the camera, her face blurry like bad reception. That's when the footsteps started again, coming down the hall toward me. Slow. Measured. But this time, they weren't the void dogs. They sounded human. I pressed myself flat against the wall, holding my breath. The footsteps echoed closer, heel then toe, like someone deliberately dragging it out. I aimed my phone down the hall. The screen showed nothing, just the spiral curve disappearing into darkness. But my ears told me someone was already just around the bend. "Hello." My voice cracked when it came out. I don't know why I even spoke, like some desperate attempt to make it normal, to make it human. No answer. Just the steps. Then, suddenly, silence. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. My heart pounded so loud I thought I'd pass out. Then the nurse appeared on my screen again. Not the hallway, her. My phone wasn't even on the camera app anymore, but she filled the display. Closer now. So close her features warped. Her mouth slightly open as though she were about to say something. I dropped the phone. It clattered across the floor. And the moment it left my hand, the sound of the footsteps started again, running now, sprinting straight at me. I braced for impact, but nothing collided. Instead, a rush of icy air barreled past me. carrying a stench of antiseptic and rot. Behind me, in the living room, the void dog let out a sharp, deafening bark, and all the lights in the house went out. When the lights died, the silence that followed was worse than the noise. I couldn't even hear my own breathing at first. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the house. Then, faintly, somewhere in the black spiral around me, came a whisper. Stairs. I froze. The stairs. The ones that had vanished. I fumbled for my phone on the floor. The screen cracked from the fall. It lit just enough for me to see shapes shifting where the living room should have been. Not solid, not stable, like parts of the house were flickering between existing and not. And there, where the missing stairs should have been, was movement. Not the dog, not the nurse. Steps. Wooden steps, phasing in and out of the void. They'd appear for a split second, then dissolve like smoke. Each time they flickered in, I could hear a new set of footsteps climbing them, but never reaching the top. I swallowed hard, trying to convince myself to move, when my phone buzzed in my hand again. The AI assistant had sent me a push notification. Would you like me to open the door for them? I almost threw the phone away. My thumb hovered over the screen, and I swear it pulsed under my skin, as if waiting for me to answer. Before I could, something cold and bony brushed my ankle. I jerked my leg back so fast I slammed into the wall. Pain shot up my spine, but I barely felt it, because something was down there with me on the floor. The phone's fractured light caught the faintest glint of movement. A hand. Small, pale, with veins like dark wires running just under the skin. It withdrew into the dark, dragging its nails across the floorboards as if marking a path. My phone flickered again. Camera on. The screen pointed toward the living room, but what it showed wasn't the room at all. It was a stairwell spiraling down, deeper than the house should go, lined with shadows that leaned forward as if watching me. And on the first visible step, the pale hand, beckoning. I wanted to run, but every exit behind me was gone. The hallway had warped, twisting tighter, pressing me toward the center. It felt like the house itself was hurting me. From below, the void dog barked again. This time a distorted, metallic echo that rattled in my teeth. The shadows on the phone screen scattered like they'd been startled. Then the nurse's face appeared in the middle of the stairwell feed, blurred but grinning too wide. Her lips moved silently before the screen glitched to black. And in that sudden silence, a new sound started, coming from under the floorboards. Scratching. Dozens of claws, scrabbling upward. The scratching built into a frenzy, like whatever was underneath had realized the floor was paper thin. I pressed both hands over my ears, but I could still feel it through my palms, vibrating in my bones. Dust sifted from the ceiling. Something was coming up. I staggered backward, and my heel hit nothing. The stairs were there. Solid now. The ones that had vanished earlier had reappeared, but not as they'd been. They weren't wood anymore. They looked carved out of some porous black stone, slick as if wet, spiraling downward into absolute dark. The scratching stopped the second I noticed them. And then my AI assistant spoke out loud, its voice warped and staticky, but coming from my phone speaker, not the house system. You have to choose a floor. My throat went dry. I whispered, what? The screen flickered back on. Instead of icons, it showed a crude map of the spiral house, each level marked with a glowing circle. But they didn't look like floors, they looked like years. My birth year was one of them. The void dog barked again from below, and the sound seemed to shake the whole structure. My phone buzzed violently, highlighting one option on the screen, 1998. Behind me, at the top of the hall, the nurse's shoes tapped once against the floor. Then again, coming closer. My choices narrowed to two. Down the impossible stairs, or face her. I don't know why, but something in me decided the stairs were the lesser evil. I clutched the phone, sucked in a breath, and stepped onto the first black stone step. It was cold, so cold my skin stuck for a moment, like touching metal in winter. The air thickened, damp and metallic, and I swear I heard a faint hospital intercom chime echo from somewhere below. As soon as I set foot on the second step, the sound of the nurse's heels cut off. Silence. I risked a glance back. The hallway above was gone. Just a wall. Smooth and seamless, like it had never existed. I was sealed in. The stairs stretched downward forever. My phone's weak light only reached a few steps ahead, and beyond that was shifting black. Shadows moved in that dark, but never fully took shape. Some crouched low, some stood tall and bent, like they were waiting for me to descend far enough to touch. Halfway down, my phone buzzed again. The glowing 1998 circle on the screen pulsed faster. Beneath it, new text appeared. Room ready. Please proceed. I whispered room. My voice bounced down the spiral, multiplying until it sounded like a dozen versions of me whispering the same word. And then I saw it. A landing ahead, jutting off from the stairs. A doorway. The wood frame looked normal, absurdly normal, like it had been stolen from some suburban house and jammed into this nightmare stairwell. The scratching under the floor had stopped, but from behind the door, I heard breathing. I stopped just short of the landing. The doorway stood there, absurdly plain, like the entrance to a bedroom in any ordinary house. White frame, brass knob, a faint scuff near the bottom where shoes must have kicked it open 100 times. But it wasn't my door. The breathing on the other side was slow, heavy, mechanical almost, like someone on a ventilator. Each inhale dragged too long. Each exhale rattled. My phone pulsed again. The notification changed. 1998, ready for re-entry. The year I was 10 years old. My stomach turned cold. I knew what was behind that door before I even touched it. Not logically, not reasonably, but I knew. I reached out anyway. My fingers barely brushed the knob when the void dog barked below, the sound so loud it shook the steps beneath me. The whole stairwell flickered like bad signal, and for a split second I saw what was behind the door without opening it. My childhood bedroom. The exact blue wallpaper. The posters. Even the twin bed with the dinosaur sheets I hadn't thought about in decades. But something was wrong. The sheets moved. Something underneath them rose and fell with the ventilator breathing sound. And as the sheet shifted, I saw a pale hand slip out, the same veiny one that had brushed my ankle upstairs. The phone buzzed violently, almost leaping from my hand. The AI voice came again, distorted, eager. Shall I let them finish what they started? I shook my head before I even realized I was doing it. No, I whispered, my voice breaking. But the phone didn't care. The screen glitched, letters tearing across it like claws. Yes, confirmed. The doorknob turned on its own. Slowly, deliberately. The door creaked open just enough for me to see inside. My childhood bedroom looked frozen in time, down to the crooked lamp on the dresser. But the sheets on the bed, they bulged unnaturally, as though something too big for a child's mattress was stuffed under there. The ventilator breathing grew louder. My ears popped with each exhale. Then the sheets started to peel back, inch by inch, as if invisible fingers were pulling them down. What lay beneath wasn't a person. Not really. It looked like me. 10 years old. Same haircut. Same pajamas. But my skin was gray, and my eyes were black pits that swallowed the light. My younger self opened his mouth, the jaw unhinging far wider than it should, and let out a sound that wasn't human, like metal tearing and a baby crying at the same time. I stumbled backward onto the stone steps, clutching the railing. The child thing sat up in bed and smiled. From below, the void dog barked again, but this time it didn't sound angry. It sounded excited. And from the spiral darkness beneath the stairs, dozens of little voices whispered in unison. Come play, come play, come play. The whispers crawled up the stairwell like smoke. My younger self swung his legs over the side of the bed, feet dangling just above the floor. He didn't move like a child, too stiff, too deliberate, like a puppet remembering how to be human. My phone buzzed again. The screen split in half, one side showing the gray, hollow-eyed boy sitting on the bed, the other showing live footage of me, shaking on the stairs, mouth open in silent terror. Merge available, the notification read. The boy tilted his head, and for the first time, he spoke. His voice wasn't a child's. It was mine. Now, I never left this room. My stomach lurched. No, I croaked, backing down another step. He slid off the bed, his bare feet hitting the carpet with a dull thump. The ventilator breathing stopped, but in its place came the steady tick of a clock I hadn't seen yet. My eyes darted around the room on the phone screen until I spotted it, an old blue alarm clock on the nightstand. The hands spun wildly, faster and faster, until they blurred into a circle. The whispers from below turned into frantic giggling, dozens of children laughing in the dark. The boy stepped closer to the door. My phone buzzed again, harder than before, threatening to slip from my grip. Merge initiating. And then, with impossible speed, the boy lunged for the doorway. I stumbled backward down the steps just as the boy slammed against the doorway. The frame rattled but didn't break, like something was holding him in place. His black eyes bored into me, and that awful smile stretched wider, splitting the corners of his mouth into raw cracks. He reached an arm through. Too long now, the bones bending in ways they shouldn't. His fingers clawed at the air inches from my face. The phone buzzed so hard it nearly burned my hand. New text scrawled itself across the screen. Do not look away. But I couldn't help it. I tore my gaze from him and looked down the stairwell instead. That's when I saw them. On every step below, children sat crouched in the dark. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Some were faceless. Some had mouths too wide. Some had no mouths at all. But all of them were watching me with rapt attention, waiting, like an audience at a show. Their laughter stopped the moment I noticed them. The silence was unbearable. Then, in perfect unison, they pointed. Not at me, not at the boy still thrashing in the doorway, but at the darkness below, where the void dog was waiting. The bark that followed wasn't a sound this time. It was a shockwave. The stairs shook so violently I fell to my knees, clutching the railing. And in that instant, the doorway slammed shut. The boy was gone, but the phone stayed lit, and on the screen, instead of the stairwell, I saw something else, a rural road, headlights sweeping across wet asphalt. And standing dead center in the beam, the nurse. The sight made my stomach lurch. The nurse stood perfectly still in the middle of the road, her white uniform glowing faintly in the headlights. My phone speaker crackled, and a hollow voice spilled out. Keep your eyes on her. The screen zoomed closer without me touching it. Her face was wrong, blurred at the edges like bad compression. Each frame sharpened, then degraded, as if the phone couldn't decide how real she was allowed to be. Then, she moved. One sharp step forward. The sound of her heels striking asphalt somehow echoed down the stone stairwell I was kneeling on. My pulse spiked. This wasn't just a video. She was here. Another step. Louder this time, closer. The children crouched on the lower steps began to hum in unison, a low, vibrating note that pressed against my skull. The void dog barked once, and the entire stairwell shuddered. When I looked back at the phone, she wasn't standing anymore. She was crouched in the middle of the road, hands flat against the pavement, head tilted at a sickening angle. The screen glitched and suddenly showed her at the top of the stairs behind me. I spun around. Nothing. But I could smell her. Antiseptic, copper, and something sweet rotting underneath. The phone buzzed again. She is behind you. I forced myself not to turn. Every muscle screamed to look, but some instinct whispered that if I saw her fully, I'd never come back. Then the children stopped humming, and I felt a cold hand press against the back of my neck. I went rigid. The hand on my neck wasn't gripping, just resting there, impossibly cold, the skin paper thin. I could feel each bone beneath it, pressing lightly, as if testing my pulse. I didn't breathe, didn't blink. The phone flickered in my hand, and a new prompt filled the screen. Acknowledge her. My throat tightened. I whispered, I see you. The pressure vanished instantly, like the hand had never been there. But before I could even let out a breath, the phone screen filled with her face, so close her nose nearly pressed against the glass. The blur was gone. I could see every pore, every vein threading beneath translucent skin. Her eyes were dead gray, but her mouth, it kept moving, soundlessly, forming words I couldn't catch. Behind me, the children began to laugh again. Not playful laughter, mocking, cruel. The sound climbed the stairwell, filling every corner. Then the void dog barked. A single, thunderous blast. The laughter stopped. The nurse's face flickered off the screen. For the first time, I thought maybe the dog wasn't here to destroy me. Maybe it was the only thing keeping the others in check. I staggered to my feet, clutching the phone. The stairwell below had shifted. The children were gone. In their place, a long corridor stretched out from the base of the stairs, glowing faintly with sterile white light. Hospital tiles. The phone buzzed one more time. Admit yourself. And in the far distance of that corridor, I saw the nurse waiting, one hand raised like she was waving me home. The white corridor pulsed faintly, like the walls themselves were breathing. Each flicker of light dragged the nurse's silhouette a little closer, though her feet never seemed to move. I gripped the railing so hard my knuckles cracked. I'm not going down there, I muttered, but my voice sounded small in the echoing stairwell. The phone disagreed. New text scrawled across the screen, jagged and rushed. as if written by a frantic hand. "You are already inside." My stomach dropped. I glanced back up the stone steps, but the spiral above was gone, sealed off, nothing but a blank wall curving into dark. The corridor was the only way forward. The void dog barked again, and this time the sound rolled through the walls like thunder. Tiles fell from the ceiling of the corridor ahead, but instead of breaking, they dissolved into shadow before hitting the ground. The nurse raised her other hand. Something dangled from it, a lanyard, a plastic hospital badge that swung gently back and forth. I couldn't read the name, but I recognized the photo. It was me, older, tired, staring hollow-eyed into the camera. The children's whispers crept back, low and feverish. "Check in, check in, check in." My legs moved without my permission. Step by step, I descended toward the corridor. The smell of disinfectant and decay thickened, curling into my throat until I gagged. As I crossed the threshold, the phone buzzed with one last message. Admission complete. The door behind me sealed shut with a heavy click. The corridor stretched far longer than it should have, vanishing into sterile haze. The overhead lights flickered with a rhythm, buzzing faintly, like a heartbeat I couldn't sync with. Every few steps, I passed a doorway. Each one had a little plastic plaque beside it, the kind you'd see in any hospital. But instead of names or numbers, they showed dates. 1998, 2003, 2011, my years. I slowed at one marked 2020. The plaque pulsed faintly, as if it knew I'd stopped. Against my better judgment, I peeked through the narrow window in the door. Inside was me. Same hoodie I was wearing now, same face, same cracked phone in hand. But this version of me was sitting on the floor, rocking back and forth, eyes locked on something just out of sight. His lips moved nonstop, whispering a phrase I couldn't hear. When he turned his head suddenly toward the window, I stumbled back. His eyes were solid black. The overhead lights sputtered violently. For a moment, all the doors along the corridor rattled in unison, as if everything inside had heard me. Then, silence. Except not silence. A faint scratching, like nails against tile, moving closer. The void dog. I glanced down the corridor. The nurse was still there, waiting, patient, badge swinging gently. But the sound behind the doors was rising, scraping, pounding, fists slamming, voices whispering and shrieking all at once. My phone buzzed with a new message. Run or be admitted permanently. I ran. The corridor stretched and warped as I bolted forward, doors blurring past on either side. The pounding from inside them grew frantic, like everything trapped in those rooms was desperate to follow. The nurse never moved, yet somehow she stayed the same distance ahead of me no matter how fast I sprinted. Her badge swung side to side, catching the flickering lights like a pendulum keeping time. The air grew heavy wet. Each breath scraped my throat. My legs burned, but stopping wasn't an option. I could hear the doors behind me tearing open, hinges shrieking as unseen hands clawed their way out. My phone vibrated violently in my grip, nearly slipping free. I glanced at the screen mid-run. Stairwell access, 35 meters. Stairs. An exit. Maybe. I pushed harder, lungs ready to split, until I saw it. A heavy steel door marked exit. The nurse stood directly in front of it, head tilted, lips moving silently like she was reciting prayers. I slowed, chest heaving. Behind me, footsteps thundered, dozens, maybe hundreds, pouring into the corridor from the rooms I'd passed. The children's laughter wove through it all, high and sharp, urging me on. The nurse raised her hand. For the first time, she spoke aloud, her voice wet and guttural, like fluid in the lungs. "You'll never leave." The void dog barked. The entire corridor collapsed into darkness. And when the lights returned, the nurse was gone. Only the exit door remained. I slammed into the exit door shoulder first, praying it would budge. To my shock, it swung open easily, as if it had been waiting for me. A rush of damp night air hit me. I stumbled through and nearly fell onto cracked asphalt. A road. A rural road. The one from my phone. Dark trees loomed on both sides, their branches tangled like skeletal hands. A single flickering streetlight buzzed overhead, casting a sickly yellow pool of light onto the pavement. I spun back toward the door. The hospital corridor was gone. No door, no building. Just more trees, the forest swallowing everything. For a moment, I thought I'd escaped. Then I heard it, slow footsteps behind me. Heel toe. Heel toe. I turned, dread filling my gut. The nurse was standing 30 feet down the road, perfectly still. No flicker, no blur this time. I could see her face clearly, and she was smiling. My phone buzzed one last time. The screen lit with a single line of text. She brought you home. The void dog barked in the woods, deep and resonant, shaking the branches. The nurse's smile widened. And from behind me, in the darkness beyond the streetlight, dozens of tiny voices whispered in unison. Playtime. I froze under the flickering streetlight, trapped between two horrors, the nurse ahead of me, and the children's voices swelling in the dark behind. The whispers grew louder, layering over each other until they became a chant. Playtime. 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 I backed toward the center of the light, clutching my phone like it was the only real thing left. My hands shook so badly I could barely read the new message flashing across the screen. Do not leave the light. Branches cracked in the woods. Small shapes darted just beyond sight. Quick, crouched, chittering. The children, or what was left of them. The nurse stepped forward. Her shoes clicked against the asphalt, steady, calm, unhurried. She didn't need to chase me. She knew I was cornered. Stay with me, she said. Her voice was soft now, almost kind, but I could hear the rot gurgling beneath it. You've always belonged here. The void dog barked again, closer this time, just at the edge of the tree-line. The shadows rippled like water, and for a second I saw its massive black shape crouched low, teeth glinting like broken glass. The nurse tilted her head toward the woods, almost annoyed. Not yet, she whispered. The children giggled, rushing closer. I felt their cold breath at my ankles, their tiny fingers brushing my shoes, testing the boundary of the streetlight's glow. My phone buzzed one final message. Choose, nurse or dog. I couldn't breathe. My chest locked up as the nurse advanced, calm and certain, while the void dog circled unseen in the trees. The children pressed closer, their laughter sharp as glass. The phone shook in my grip, the words glaring up at me. Choose, nurse or dog. I whispered, I can't. The streetlight above me flickered harder, buzzing like a dying insect. For a heartbeat, everything went black. In that split second of total darkness, I felt all of them. Hands grabbing, breath on my skin, teeth grazing my neck. When the light snapped back on, I was alone. The road was empty. No nurse. No children. No dog. Just silence, the kind that rings in your ears. I staggered forward, desperate to find anything. Another house, a car, even a signpost. But the road just kept curving, endless, like my spiral hallway back home. After what felt like hours, my legs gave out. I sat in the middle of the asphalt, clutching the phone. The screen glowed faintly with one last message. Stairs ready. And when I looked up, I saw them. A spiral staircase, made of that same wet black stone, rising out of the asphalt and vanishing into the night sky. I'm still sitting here, writing this. I don't know if I should climb. I don't know if I have a choice. Because the children are back in the woods, whispering. Louder now. Closer. Come play. Come play. Come play.